Have you ever read an essay and thought, wow, this grammar is really good and everything is so clear, but when you tried to write your own essay, you felt like, oh, my grammar wasn't very good and I couldn't connect my ideas smoothly. Now, don't worry, in this video I'm going to share with you even though I'm holding up 4 fingers, 5 different sentence structures that you can use for any essay that you might face in your exam. And the best part is that you don't need perfect grammar to use them. They'll actually help make your grammar look better, and by the end of this video you'll have some practical tools to improve your writing right away. Now, if you're new here, my name is Arturs and I moved to the UK in 2010. I also passed my IELTS and studied at one of the UK's universities. So I feel like I have some knowledge that I can share with you to help you to prepare for your exam. Now, let's take a look at the structures. So in your exam, you'll be asked to compare multiple ideas, and you need to show that you can think of all the ideas before making the point so that your essay is balanced. Now, let's take a look at these two ideas, remote work and office-based work. I personally a huge fan of remote work because I currently work remotely, so I save a lot of time so I can record videos for you guys or play Final Fantasy. Now, office-based work, I used to work from office in the past, and what I loved about it is that you build deeper relationships with people. Now, I would say that office-based work is more effective. How can we use all of this information and condense it in one logical sentence? Now, first of all, when you compare ideas, you need to show contrast. And we can show contrast by using while. Okay, so while, and then we talk about the remote work. While remote work offers flexibility, comma, and only after a comma we introduce our main point. Office-based work is ultimately more efficient, more effective. Now, in this single sentence, we managed to compare two different ideas. So if you have a single word that is very short and is one syllable, you simply add ER. So for example, low becomes lower and high becomes higher. Now, if you have a word with multiple syllables like effective, you simply add more to it. Okay, can you think of any other words? Important, or beneficial, more beneficial. Now, a lot of students stop here, but remember that you want to show, you want to back up your point, your arguments. Now, to do that, we simply add because it, and I'm referring to office-based work, it fosters stronger. Now I've built a comparative. Strong has one syllable, and so I simply added ER. So this is how I build this comparative. Stronger team collaboration. And there it is. There's our sentence. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So this next structure will help you to explain processes and consequences clearly. For example, when we know that one thing is causing another one, which causing another one. Okay, so how can we link all this, join all these three ideas together? So very simple. So we start with the first one, free public transport Okay, and I'm going to use leads to, so I'm connecting the first idea to the second one, leads to increased ridership. Okay, now how do we connect the third one without repeating ourselves? We can use which to refer back, which results in reduced carbon emissions. So I would say significantly reduced carbon emissions. And let's make this sentence even longer. So, where is the public transport the most common? Well, it's in urban areas or in rural areas. Right, it's in urban areas. In urban areas. And now we have our logical sentence. Free public transport leads to increased ridership, which results in significantly reduced carbon emissions in urban areas. Nice and easy to follow. Now, let's take a look at the next one. This next one is great for advantages and disadvantages, and it might be a little bit more advanced than you think. Let's take a look. So on this side, we have textbooks and we have a disadvantage, environmental impact. On this side, we have digital learning materials, and the advantage of digital learning materials is instant updates. Okay, so how can we compare them? So we start with unlike to set up the comparison. And then we talk about the textbooks. Unlike textbooks, comma. And now we talk about digital learning materials. Digital learning, bear with me, materials, okay, provide instant updates. Okay, now we sort of compare them. We haven't talked about the environmental impact. So how can we do that? So it's, it's natural. You can add whilst, which is another way of saying while. And now what I'm doing is, here's the juicy part. I'm making a textbook disadvantage an advantage of digital material. So I'm basically moving it here. And how do I transform it? I simply use a verb, avoiding. Whilst avoiding the environmental impact of paper production. Okay, so here's our sentence. So I started with unlike, and I also included whilst, and most importantly, I used avoiding to transform the disadvantage of textbooks into an advantage of digital learning materials. Okay, let's look at the next one. Now, we haven't talked about examples yet, and I think one of the cool features of IELTS is that you can make up your own examples because you want to demonstrate that you're not just giving opinions, but you can support them with evidence and proof. Now, let's take a look at this example for when library's free reading program has increased reading scores. Now, how can we use it in a sentence? So, when you give an example, you can start with for instance, or for example. For instance, the library's free reading program. Now we need to show what it did. And to do that, we can say demonstrated how. Now, before I give this information, because this is my sort of evidence, I want to paraphrase the library, sort of give it like make it more top level. So go up a little bit. So instead of library, I'm gonna say how community services. How community services can improve. And I'm not gonna say reading scores. I'm gonna say literacy. Literacy. So, for instance, the library's free reading program demonstrated how community services can improve literacy. And now I'm going to give my evidence. As evidenced by increased reading scores. Now, and here's our sentence. We can also add a little bit more additional information. So, for example, we can say that reading scores of who? Of participating children. Okay, and here's our sentence. Now, let's take a look at our final one. Now, this last one is going to demonstrate balanced thinking. It's going to show your examiner that you see the complexity, because in real life, things are not black and white. Things have positive things, and at the same time, they have some negative things. So let's take a look at this example. So social media. A positive thing is that it helps connect people together, but also there are some privacy concerns. Now, how we can discuss both of these things? Well, first of all, we need to introduce contrast, exactly the same what we did in our previous structures. But this time, I'm going to use although. So I'm setting up a contrast, and I'm going to start with the positive thing. Although social media increases global connectivity, comma, and now after this comma, I can talk about the negative thing, but I also want to use a word that describes that both things happening at the same time. So I'm using it to refer back to social media. It simultaneously, I hope that spelled it right. It simultaneously presents serious privacy concerns. And generally, that's our sentence. So we used although to set up the contrast, and we also use simultaneously to show that these things live, at the same time. They're present at the same time. Now, I want to go a little bit further and add a passive voice, because when you talk about concerns, you can always say that must be addressed by users and platforms. Here's our sentence. Although social media increases global connectivity, it simultaneously presents serious privacy concerns that must be addressed by users and platforms. Okay, you can also say addressed carefully, must be carefully addressed, so you get some extra points for using some nice adverbs. Right, and that's basically it. These are the 5 structures that will help you score high in IELTS. And one thing I want to say, don't memorize them. Instead, practice them regularly so they become natural for you. And remember, if you still find something difficult, even after practicing, it's fine to move on, because it's always better to use simple structures correctly than to use complex structures that don't feel comfortable yet. So practice so it becomes natural for you. Right. Until the next time. Bye.